Okay, today, this is the 15th session of the Emotional Harmony Seminar, and we're going to speak about the spiritual potential of marriage and marriage relationships, or in general, companionship and deep male-female relationships. Of course, many things that we will be saying could be applied to any kind of relationship. Could be also applied to a parent-child relationship or brothers and sisters. But some aspects have to do basically with marriage relationships. Let's start off with the question, why do we enter into a marriage relationship? What are the motives? We have understood now in the seminar that we do everything that we do because we have a need which motivates us in that direction. And what are the needs which motivate us to unify our lives with another person and create an exclusive relationship with that person? One need, we'll start with the most basic needs and we'll move upward into the more spiritual needs. One of the most basic needs is material security. Especially the woman is programmed in the childhood years to believe that she is not materially secure or able to survive in this society if she doesn't have a husband. So there's a programming, a social programming, which goes deep into the subconscious mind. So one need is material security. Another need is the sexual desires, the desire to fulfill our sexual needs. And that's more easily done when we have a spouse in which we create an exclusive relationship. Many people give an exaggerated importance to that in relationships. My opinion is that there are some psychologists who believe that the success of a relationship depends on the sexual harmony between two persons. My belief is that the sexual harmony is a result of emotional and spiritual harmony between those two persons. Another need is our emotional needs to receive affirmation, to receive love, to play the various games, emotional games, and emotional interactions which we learned as children. And often we select a spouse who is exactly like our parent, one of our parents, in order to continue playing those same games, those same ego games with another person. And we see there's often a very great similarity between one of our parents and our spouse. Another need is to belong. We have spoken about that when we spoke about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that we have a need to belong to, and the need for someone to belong to us. We want to know that this person belongs to me, and that I belong to him, and that there is this exclusive relationship which gives us a feeling of security and of belonging. It's one of the basic needs. On the other hand, the need for increased self-esteem and self-confidence. There is a thought form in society that if you cannot find someone who wants to be with you exclusively, then you're not worth very much. That is, you lose your self-worth. There's this thought form that says it's a shame, or it's demeaning not to be able to find someone who wants to be exclusively with you. So we get a certain amount of self-confidence and self-affirmation in being able to find a spouse. And in some societies, social pressure may also be a factor, especially for women, and especially in Mid-Eastern and Eastern countries, where it is considered very important for the woman to be married, at least before a certain age. She shouldn't be very old before she gets married. And so there are social pressures from the family who feels that their social prestige is being lessened by the fact that their daughter may not be married. some pressure may also be put on men also. And perhaps more in the past than in the present, also people were interested in marrying into a higher social class, and it was a very important factor to which social class someone belonged in determining a spouse. So it was also a matter of rising within the social levels. Another factor is common interests that we have. We both like nature, we both like music, or we both like science, or we both like theater. There are common interests which bring us together in order to share those common interests. And one very obvious common interest is children, making children and raising children. So another factor which causes people to come together is to be able to raise children. Also, there could be a common work or a common profession. Two persons who may run a small store together, or may do scientific research together, or have an office together, or be lawyers or doctors together. So they may work together, and in working together, come to know each other and decide to unite their lives. There's another factor which we can call karma or fate, which may work independently of all of the previous. We may not be getting any of the previous things from someone, but we just may feel deeply attracted to that person, which means that there is some kind of fate, some kind of subconscious force which is pushing us towards that person to unite our lives with him or her. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned the word love until now. That is because I believe that love, real love, is only universal, and that exclusive relationships have love in them, but they're actually based on needs. And that if we examine why we select a particular person, it's because some specific needs are fulfilled by that person. Real love must be developed on a universal level, so that we will feel that same love towards all beings, but we will select a personality with whom we can attune ourselves and with whom we can live a harmonious life to be our mate. One thing is love. Another thing is the selection of a partner, a lifelong partner, which is based on various interests, that we have the same goals, the same beliefs, the same way of life that we would like to live, and there is a harmony between our personalities. Often that harmony exists in the beginning and then changes after a period of time, because one or the other changes, interests or desires or negative aspects which were not evident when we had a superficial relationship begin to become evident. That doesn't mean that the relationship should be terminated. It means that simply that those conditions of agreement existed in the beginning so that we can unite our lives with that person, and now those difficult aspects become our opportunities for growth and our opportunities for learning through the difficulties which exist. There are also two other reasons why persons could unite their lives. One is that to evolve spiritually together, that is through creating an environment in which they're meditating, praying, serving. So spiritual evolution and service towards humanity can also be two reasons why people may decide to unite their lives. If they believe that united they can proceed more effectively, or that they can serve more effectively. Now, why are there so many problems in our love relationships in this present time, in this 1993? Over 50% of the marriages in America end in separation, and 80% of those who remarry separate again, which is a great difference from 100 years ago. I mean, it's a big change, and there is a serious problem in which people have difficulty staying together. And what are the factors? One basic factor is that we do not take responsibility for our reality. We are under the illusion that the other person is the cause of what I feel. We do not see the other person as exactly what I need for my spiritual growth process, and so we begin blaming the other person. When we begin blaming the other person, he or she feels defensive, and when someone is feeling defensive or intimidated or vulnerable, he reacts in one of two ways. Either he closes off to protect himself, as a turtle does, or he becomes aggressive or violent even, in order to push us away. As we perceive this closing off or this aggressive behavior, we too begin to feel intimidated and rejected. And that creates a vicious circle in which both of us become more closed off and more intimidated and more aggressive in that relationship. So one basic cause is that we blame the other for our emotions. We blame the other for our lack of satisfaction, for our lack of happiness. The second cause is that we expect that the other, when we get into a relationship, we expect that the other will be able to create within us that sense of fullness which we have been unable to create by ourselves. And that is that they will give us a sense of security, they will give us a sense of self-acceptance, of self-esteem, of self-worth. And that's impossible. No one can create within us a sense of security. Even if their behavior is conducive to our experiencing security or self-worth, they are temporary. And something could happen to them at any moment, and that we know that in our subconscious mind. Not only that, we need affirmation of our self-worth and of our security millions of times. It's already been affirmed to us hundreds of thousands of times, but it's not enough. It's like an empty pot, and we get affirmation, and the next day we want it again, and we want it again. And we look for very small things that the other may do in order to affirm that, well, he doesn't love me, or she doesn't love me. We're preconditioned to believe that the others don't love us, and so we more easily see that than the opposite. It's much easier for us to pinpoint the actions which affirm to us that you don't love me, or else you wouldn't do that, or you would do that, rather than for us to see all of the other actions which affirm that this person does love me. Another factor which makes relationships difficult is that we have not obtained communication skills. We have not learned to communicate effectively. Now, in the course of this seminar, we won't be getting a chance to talk in depth about effective communication. We have one class remaining, and we will talk about communication, but very briefly. We will dedicate that to effective communication. But it takes much more. So we need to learn to communicate more effectively. Another factor is that we don't know what we want out of life. We have a large number of internal conflicts, and those internal conflicts reflect in our relationship. We believe that the other person is confronting us, or is inhibiting us, or is rejecting us, but the reality is that that stance of rejection or confrontation or obstruction is only a reflection of one of those two or more parts of myself who are in conflict. And the moment that I am very clear within myself about what I want and what I deserve and who I am in life, the other person will stop being so much of an obstacle or stop rejecting so much those aspects of myself. That those negative behaviors of the other person are a result of my inner conflicts and my inner doubt. So one basic factor is that we are not very clear within ourselves what we deserve to have, who we are, and what we want actually from this relationship. Another factor is that we have a very poor examples of communication and of relationships. Very few people in all of these years that we've been doing this seminar have spoken very positively. Some people have spoken very positively, but very few. Very positively about the relationship that they saw between their parents as being something that they would like to have. So as we have that image, that prototype in our subconscious mind, it's very natural, because the mind is creator of reality, it's very natural for us to create the same scenes in the same external reality, which is just a reproduction of what we experienced either between our parents or between one or both parents and our own selves. So these are videotaped in the subconscious mind and have the tendency to be replayed often in our relationships. And one other factor which has been destructive lately to marriage relationships is the great emphasis which has been put on individualism. Now we're in a very crucial part of history of mankind in which the woman is being liberated and is gaining equality with the man. And that's why there is so much disturbance in relationships at this point, because before there were not two persons in a relationship. There was one ego. The woman completely denied her ego, denied her desires, her needs. She was a non-personality in the relationship. And it's very easy to have a relationship when there's only one personality, when the other one doesn't say anything or doesn't express needs or doesn't ask anything. Now that this change is that we're going through this change, both women and men are confused, because neither have women gotten free from those old thought forms. And although they may be expressing some aspects of equality, actually in the subconscious mind there are a number of thought forms that they do not have the right to have that, and then they don't instill that either in the man. The man also has the same thought forms, and of course this is more intense in the Middle East and in the East as it is in Europe and the US, where this change has taken place a number of years ago, but it's still taking place. And of course it's just starting to take place here. And so that creates a confusion. We have a confusion of roles, and no one is very sure what kind of balance needs to be created in the relationship. So what can we do to make a marriage relationship more harmonious, and what can we do to use that relationship as a spiritual growth process? How can we use our relationship with our loved one as a process of spiritual growth? First of all, we can take responsibility for our reality. And we can stop believing that the other is responsible for our emotions, for our state of mind, and stop expecting the other to create within us the self-worth and the inner security which we need. We'll need to find that by ourselves. Doesn't mean that we can't ask the other for some help, but we can't depend on the other for that help. We have to create it ourselves. Secondly, we will need to learn communication skills. We will need to learn how to make I messages and not you messages. That is, rather than saying to the other person what he's doing wrong, what is good for him, what he should do, what he must do, much more effective is to explain what I need, what I feel, and why I feel that. It is to explain about myself that I need a certain kind of behavior from this person in order to feel well. Rather than condemning him and accusing him for not being the way I want to be, it's much more effective to explain how I need him to be. And it's very important the word need rather than want. When you say, I want you to do this, I want you to do the other, that's a command. When you say I need, we put our own weakness in that. And that allows the other person to not feel so intimidated. No, I need this from you. I want you. You must do this, or you must do the other. We'll speak about that in more detail in the next session. The other aspect of effective communication is learning to listen. It's called active listening. Being able, when someone has a problem, not to criticize, not to give advice, not to tell him what to do, not to start speaking about ourselves, but to learn to ask questions which help this person to clarify what is going on in his mind and what he or she needs either from us or from life or from himself or herself at this moment. So we need to learn to listen. We need to learn to communicate with I messages and to listen to the other person. This is an art, a science and an art, which will take some time to learn. Thirdly, we will need to work on our own spiritual growth, our own self-growth, and develop self-acceptance and inner security in order for any relationship to work. When I create a relationship out of need, out of fear of being alone, then that relationship does not have a good base. When I create a relationship because I want to be with that person, I enjoy being with that person, it's a pleasure, it's a joy being with that person, that's a completely different thing. But when I am with someone because I cannot stand being alone, or I need the affirmation of having someone, or the security of having someone, then that relationship is on very shaky ground, because it's very easy for that person to do things or not do things which will intimidate those feelings of security and self-affirmation. So it's very important. And I would suggest to all persons who are not yet married to work on that before they commit themselves to a relationship. To gain a sense of inner security, a sense of self-worth, and then create a relationship so that it's not based on need, but it's based on something more positive, that I enjoy sharing my life with this other soul. He has qualities which attract me, which I enjoy, and not simply that I need to have someone. It's very important. Also, it's important to have common activities. That is, to do things together. Sometimes in relationships, a sort of a war is created in which, because one of the two doesn't participate with the other in some activity, the other starts not participating with the first. And it's this sort of who's going to give in war takes place. It's better for us to give in a little bit, and to start participating with this person in things that he or she enjoys doing, so that then they will also feel the stimulus to participate in what we enjoy. It's important for there to be common activities in a relationship. But it is also important for there to be space. I'd like to read you a poem by Khalil Gibran on marriage. It's from the Prophet when they ask him about marriage. you will also remember that Shakespeare has said that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's good for two people not to be together continuously, every day of the year, 365 days of the year. It is useful occasionally for them to experience their own being as a separate entity from the other, to do things together, but for there all to also to be space. Let's hear what the Prophet has to say about that by Khalil Gibran. You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness. Let the winds of heaven dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together, and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. So there needs to be a unity, a doing things together, but there needs also to be space. One cannot become that which the other wants, and one cannot become a duplicate of the other. This is not possible. This would be to deny our own inner nature. So it should be a relationship of two free spirits who love each other, who enjoy each other's company, but one should not shadow the other, and neither should lose his own identity in that relationship. But I would say that the greatest opportunity for spiritual growth in a relationship is the fact that we confront our ego, because we are given exactly the partner that we need for our spiritual growth. That is both in the positive sense and in a negative sense. That is, whatever positive qualities we have developed until now in our spiritual evolution will be reflected in this partner. And whatever we have come to learn in this lifetime and to confront within ourselves, fears and attachments and desires and doubts, we will also confront through the behavior of this person. So I imagine that the starting of a relationship is like two very strangely formed gears, if you like, with pointed edges which do not match. And those two gears try to function harmoniously, but their edges, because they have different programmings, a different past, different needs, desires, and beliefs, in the beginning conflict and create a great deal of friction. And we have two choices when we begin to feel this friction which is being created between our two egos, our two different personalities. One choice is to harden those corners, those edges, and to remain in our own fort, our own castle, not giving in and becoming even more extreme in those qualities which conflict. And that usually happens when we doubt ourselves and we begin playing the game, who is right? Many times we think, we believe that we are fighting about how we should raise our children, or what we should do with our money, or where we should take our vacation. But the reality is that we are fighting about who is more powerful and who is right. And those other things are not so important as to it be verified that I am right, I know better. or that my will overcome or will stand here. The other option is to begin to round our corners, those edges, so that this mingling, that is to begin to modify those aspects of ourselves which conflict, and to become more rounded and more rounded, because the reality is that as souls we are round and don't conflict with anyone. Only as personalities do we conflict. Our souls are never in conflict with anyone. Only our personality can be in conflict, and that's because the personality is not yet enough evolved. And so we attract a mate which has exactly the qualities which we need to confront in order for those weaknesses which we have come to work on in this lifetime are brought to the surface, and we see them and work on them. We have the choice. We have free will, however. We can leave the relationship. We can stay in the relationship and become even more extreme and more separated from the other person, or we can work on this inner transformation which will make us more and more harmonious in the contact with this person. That requires deep self-analysis. It also requires communication skills, the ability to be able to communicate effectively with the other person and listen to the other person. And it requires a certain amount of clarity of mind and a conscious choice that I want to get free from my ego, and I don't want to play ego games in this relationship. I want to be honest. I want to be just. I don't want to do something to the other that I would not like that other to do to me. And I want to experience that level of unconditional love, which I believe someday I may be able to experience in my spiritual process, so that this marriage relationship becomes a stepping stone towards unconditional love, where I learn to love one other person as he is. After, of course, I've tried 20 years to change him. We come to the conclusion that, well, I guess I better accept him as he is. And accepting the other as he is, or as she is, helps us to get free from all of these fears and addictions and beliefs, which are actually obstacles to our spiritual evolution. Accepting someone as he is doesn't mean that we let him do whatever he wants to us. It means that, that we maintain a feeling of love and unity with him, whatever he does, regardless of as to whether we have to become more assertive or more confrontive or more demanding at certain times, and at less times giving in and surrendering. That's completely independent from the feeling of love and acceptance. Is that we love our child even when we say to the child, no, you can't do that. We don't stop loving him. So there are times when, out of love, we have to become even more confrontive and not respond to something which the other person asks. So we're not talking about what we're going to do, we're talking about an inner feeling of love for that person, whatever he or she may do. Now there are a number of conflicts which I have seen in persons over the years. I would like to speak about a few of them so that you can have an idea what I mean by need conflicts in relationships. One conflict could be the conflict between one's need for affection, or for more affection than that which is being expressed, and the other's difficulty in expressing affection. The one who needs more affection begins to doubt the other's love and starts pressuring the other in various ways to express more affection. The one who is being pressured feels danger because he's being pressured to do something which is difficult for him or her for some reason. It could be childhood programming, it could be various fears that he has for some reason. And feeling that intimidation closes off even more, which creates an even greater sense of rejection in the other. And this creates this vicious circle in which one is pressuring the other, feeling rejection, and the other who is feeling the pressure is closing off or even becoming aggressive in order to protect himself. The same can happen on the sexual level, that one, as the relationship goes on, one may have more need for sexual contact than the other. And when he doesn't receive that, he receives rejection. Rejection of himself, or rejection of his manliness, or her womanness. And this creates the need for the affirmation of ourselves through the sexual acceptance from the other. Pressuring the other makes the other fear because for some reason he doesn't want to have this contact at this point. It could be a number of reasons. It could be that they're not feeling emotionally close to us, or that there are some hurt feelings, or it could be spiritual reasons or physical reasons. It doesn't matter. And this creates a vicious circle of greater rejection in the one, a feeling of pressure and fear in the other. And if they're not able to communicate about this in an effective way, it can create a great deal of misconception and separation between them. Another area of conflict, which I've seen frequently, is about cleanliness and neatness and order, in which one has a greater degree of need for cleanliness and order than the other. When the other does not help in creating that clean and orderly environment, which the first needs in order to feel secure and relaxed in that environment, it begins to pressure the other. That pressure causes the other to feel suppressed and a lack of freedom. He reacts often by doing even less to help out in creating an orderly or clean environment. And this creates a vicious circle between them in which both of them feel that an injustice is being done to them. The one that the other is not helping me create the environment which I need, and the other that this person is pressuring me to create an environment which I don't need. And both of them feel unhappy. And how are we going to solve these problems? We need to learn to communicate about this. Other areas could be social contact, that one of them wants to have more frequent social contact and the other doesn't. How do they solve those problems? Another could be that one wants to spend the money that they have now, and the other may want to save it for the future, or put it in the bank, or put it into land or buildings. Whether they're going to watch TV, or whether they're going to listen to music, or whether they're going to read. How to bring up the children, if the children should be controlled to a great degree, or whether they should be left free to make their own decisions. Often a source of conflict between the couple, within the couple. Another area is whether we're going to talk about our problems or whether we're going to leave them, whether they'll be solved in other ways. For example, the woman usually, it's not exclusive to the woman, but in general, the woman usually needs to talk more than the man. And this talking is just a process of connecting. The man sees talking as a way of solving problems. For example, the woman may say, well, I had this problem today, and the man will simply say, well, do this, and it's finished for him, you see. But that's not what the woman was looking for. The woman is looking for a discussion, a way of connecting, not interested in simply having a solution. He can't understand that, because he sees talking as simply a way of finding the solution. Then the discussion is finished, you see. And so this often creates problems in which the woman feels that her need for communication, her need for connection is not being fulfilled. The man feels pressured to do something he doesn't consider very useful or worthwhile or necessary, because he may feel that unity in another way, not so much through words. And so all of these are differences in needs and ways of thinking which exist between us. And if we're not mature, and if we don't have enough love within us, it can create a tremendous amount of tension and even separation in the relationship. So it's important to learn how to dive deep within ourselves and find what is going on within us, which is preventing us from being able to respond to the needs of the other. Do we have some bitterness in us? Is it childhood programming, which is not allowing us to respond to my loved one's needs? Or is it that I don't believe in that it's something which is not within my value system? And so in such a case, this has to be discussed. It is because there are value conflicts and there are need conflicts. When it's a need conflict, we can probably find a solution. When it's a value conflict, when my spouse is asking me to do something which has no value for me, such as social activity or taking trips, then I have to explain to them, you see, I love you, but I can't do that. I would come into conflict with my conscience. As much as I love you, I cannot do things in life which bring me into conflict with my inner self. Other things which do not bring us into conflict with our inner self, we can try to overcome those programmings and accommodate. And also see the programmings within us which are demanding something from the other which they cannot give us. And is my lesson in this case to learn to demand it more assertively? Is my lesson to remove the subconscious beliefs which create doubt whether I deserve what I'm asking from the other? Or is my lesson to learn to be happy without receiving what I'm asking? You see? So each person has to search within himself in these relationship situations to see what is my lesson here, and what is what I need to change in myself in order to feel harmony with this person, even if he or she does not change. It's a very important question. So relationships are an excellent opportunity for the development of all spiritual qualities, such as love, patience, compassion, understanding, forgiveness. It's an excellent school, and we can consider our spouse to be our spiritual teacher. Not our spiritual teacher in the sense that we need to do what they tell us to do, but through these interactions we learn in life, in the process of functioning, to cultivate these positive qualities. Another aspect of developing a more spiritual relationship is to see the other as an incarnation of the divine. Now this may seem strange to a lot of people if they're hearing that for the first time. It's a very interesting custom in India, in the marriage ceremony, where both the husband and the wife, after the ceremony, bow down and touch the feet of their spouse, and the spouse takes 7 steps as the other is holding on to their feet. And this is that I prostrate myself to the divine within you, that I recognize that you are an incarnation of this divine universal consciousness, and I respect you in the same way. So this cultivation of the idea that this is not simply a body which is across from me. This is an incarnation of this one universal consciousness. And it's exactly the expression, because every expression of that universal consciousness is unique and different. It's exactly the expression which I need in order to grow. And it has both the positive aspects and the negative aspects, which I need in order to learn love without conditions in this incarnation. So seeing the other as an incarnation. Also, I think it's very important for the relationship not to be the goal, but for it to be the means. I have never been able to see a relationship as a goal, but a relationship as a means for serving others, for evolving, for understanding ourselves, but not the relationship as that my goal in life is to have a relationship. The goal in life has to be higher than that. It has to be beyond that. It has to be spiritual evolution, service to humanity, creativity, whatever it may be. And the relationship is a way of doing that. When the relationship is the goal, then it becomes my life breath, then there's a great amount of fear which is created within us. Because that I must have that, or else I am not fulfilling my goal in life. When I understand that my goal is that as a soul in evolution to evolve, then I see the relationship as a means to evolution. So it's important for us to expand beyond our relationships, for the relationship to be our base, but not to limit us in our spiritual process. And it would be very helpful if families together would go out and serve in the community. I think it's very important, even when the children are very young, to take them to orphanages, to take them to help the refugees, to help the old people. Let them at an early age get into the idea of doing something for someone else without there being any reward for that, any material reward anyway. And to get in the process, the idea of serving, or the idea of that this family is not a unit separate from society, but this family is a cell within society, and its function is to serve society and not simply to close off into itself for its own security and survival, but to be interested in the greater whole. Also, it would be very useful if families and couples could engage in spiritual practices together, if they could meditate together, if they could pray together, if they could read spiritual books together, if they could have spiritual discussions together, if they could go out to nature or serve in some way, to do some things together which bring them together in contact with their spiritual selves. A few words for those who have not yet made that commitment. I would suggest first that you clarify what you want from life. It's very important. What do you want from your lives? Do you want simply a comfortable home, social acceptance, whatever it may be? Do you want spiritual evolution? Do you want to do scientific investigations? Do you want to create a business? Do you want to have professional life? Do you want to have family and professional life? It's very important to clarify this, to know what you want. In our community, our spiritual community, when two people want to unite themselves, we give them a number of questionnaires to fill out. And we ask them to fill out those questionnaires separately. And then they come and we discuss their answers separately at first, in order to see if they really want the same things out of life. As we mentioned earlier, it's not just a matter of love. Love is for everyone. It's universal. It's a matter of whether these two particular personalities can function together, whether they have the same goals. If one wants to have lots of furniture in a nice house and the other one wants to sleep on the floor and doesn't want to spend any money on furniture and clothing, or doesn't want to travel or anything like this, they're going to have a problem eventually. Well, they're going to have a conflict of needs. It's better to clarify those things from the beginning. So the first thing is to clarify what you want out of life. And if you want one of those questionnaires, I'll try to muster up a few of them to give to you. Secondly, develop inner security and self-confidence. Be sure as much as possible, because we're not enlightened, that you're not uniting with someone simply from a sense of insecurity. But you're making a choice based on more positive aspects, that is, you really admire some qualities in that person, you find that there are some, that you have common interests, common needs, and not simply to have someone. And I would suggest that you might even, when you make that decision, write up your own marriage contract, except for the contract that you will find in the church or synagogue or temple or wherever you go. your own contract, your own agreement between you, and it agreed upon between you what the way you want to live, what one expects from the other. What do I expect from you? It's very important to be clear about that in the beginning. And what we want to do with our lives, so our life goals, what we expect from the other, and how we would like to live. These are very important aspects. So today's discussion was about marriage, the problems which exist, what we can do to harmonize our marriage relationships, and what we can do to spiritualize them, and how we can use this relationship as a growth process. And I would say that most of our spiritual lessons come through relationships at this state of our evolution. The three areas in which we learn most are relationships, health, and profession. There are also some other areas, but this is the main. The biggest of those is relationships. Then health, and then our professional life. Any questions about today's discussion? Daniel. I would say that, first of all, I would make a distinction between relationships in which we have taken a vow and relationships in which we have not taken a vow, regardless of whether that vow is in a church or temple or not. But we have given our word that I agree to be with you for this incarnation. I make a distinction between that situation and the situation in which we say, well, I'm still shopping around. I like you, but I don't make that vow. I don't tell you that I'm with you. I don't express that to you, because for me, regardless of the spiritual aspect, man's word must be important. It must be something which has meaning, and it's a big problem in our day and age that man's word has very little power because he doesn't keep it. So I would say that in a marriage relationship or in a relationship in which we have made this vow, either by ourselves or in the presence of some other persons, it has to be a very serious situation. I mean, there have to be very serious reasons. The other has to beat us or cheat on us or have totally lost his mind. I mean, you have to have very serious reasons, I would suggest, in order to leave. In the other situations in which we haven't made that vow, we're just still looking around to find with whom we want to unite our lives, then there's no obligation, as long as we're clear about that with the other person. And there's no need to force ourselves to stay. If we feel that this person does not embody those qualities with which I would like to live the rest of my life, then we can explain, I like you, I care for you, but I don't really feel that I can unite my life with you. More specific than that, I can't get. Any other questions? Yes.
I was just going to say that the contract sounds a really good idea, but the problem is, we change. We make the contract at 20.
Yeah. Those are the surprises God has for us in our spiritual evolution. That is it. And in those cases, then, since we've made the vow, then we're in it. We have to stay in and just ride it out. I mean, we will have more.
It's difficult to know what you want.
I understand that, but it's not by chance that person embodied what we wanted then and changed, or we changed. Because it may not be he that changed. We may change. That's not by chance. And it's good to really give it a try. I would say that about 10% of the divorces which take place really need to take place. Most of them take place because not enough effort is given, and there's a lot of ego moving around. Any other questions? Kyriako?
We should make a list. Okay, make at least 1 to 10 things, let's say.
That's your choice. It's just that at least you know when you're getting into the relationship what the other person is asking from you. I mean, you'll have to decide, well, that's 9 out of 10, I think I'll go ahead, or it's 8 out of 10. It's your choice, it's not my choice. It depends on what those things are in which you don't agree, on what you do agree, how important those are, how the others are. Yeah. Anything else? This all may seem very, all the aspect of romance and love sort of out the window, but my experience is that all of those relationships which were created in that sudden impulsive way, without investigating these factors as to whether we really do have something upon which to base our relationship, is that they don't last very long. And it doesn't exclude the feeling of being in love. It doesn't exclude, as we say in Greek, erotas. And they will usually coincide. But erotas, the feeling of being in love with someone, lasts. It usually doesn't last a very long time. It's something which that will be transformed into love, into a more stable kind of love, as opposed to that first excitement which we feel. That sense of excitement doesn't usually last a long period of time. And we can't base our relationships only on that initial excitement. It's better to be based on a more long-lasting factor.
Let's say that two people are together and they both agree to split from each other because it's the best for them.
If they both agree, we're not harming anyone.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that's best for their evolution, but since they both agree, at least we're not doing something to someone that we would not like them to do to us.
Let's say they both agree, but they could. I mean, why change? I mean, let's say they're still friends. They still see each other.
That could happen.
It's acceptable, though, even though they make
Everything is acceptable. We don't reject anything. We don't believe that we're going to do something which will make God not love us. It's all a matter of evolution. The only question is whether that step is more effective for my evolution than the other, than staying together. But at least we don't have the case in which we are hurting someone, which is an important factor. Yes. We are the stimulus. We're not the cause. The hurt is created by their programmings and their beliefs. But in the case which Siobhan was saying, is that in a sense that person is giving us our release papers. Next, you gave me your word, but I give you your freedom. So in this case, it's more a release from our word than it is that we're harming the other person. You see? So it's like saying, okay, well, you can leave. It's okay with me. I feel the same. Yeah, it's like we don't have our release papers yet. we have some lessons to learn. I'm talking about where the vow has been given, not where we haven't given the vow yet. Not in a relationship where we haven't said, "Look, I will be with you." We're testing. We both agree that we're testing. We're checking it out. That's another situation.
I just wanted to ask another question before I forget. Talking about basing relationships on need or fear of being alone, as compared with enjoying the life of the other person. Sometimes it's a combination.
Yeah, it can. We have a large variety of needs within us, and it can be a combination of all that.
We need to look at how much it's need and how much it's enjoyment.
Look, until we're totally enlightened, we will always have needs, and we will always come into contact with someone because of needs. So you can't get free from that. It's just that it shouldn't be that is the basic. That fear of being alone, that shouldn't be the basic reason why we want to connect with someone. basic reason that we see qualities in that person which we admire, we like, we love, we enjoy being with them, and it also fulfills our feelings of insecurity.
I want to say something. It's not a question, because we speak about the relationship in this lesson, about the letter we have to write. I don't know the others, but I write it and I give him 3 days ago, because many times I try to speak, but I think I feel embarrassed when I said,
I love you.
yes, he never say it. And I see his attitude completely changed.
Uh-huh.
He have more self-confidence.
You see?
I said to Shivani, it's incredible. It's fantastic. I write exactly things that you said, because I realized we came together because we had to come together. It's,
So you should write 1 letter a week.
I never had, I'm 10 years married, he never was like that.
You see, we see negativity in persons, and we think it's negativity, and it's only fear.
Yes, it's fear. And he didn't want to read. When I gave it, he said, like years, we used to write these letters when we were 70 years old. And I said, so give it to me if you don't want to read it. And then when I've been to sleep, I hear and he read it. And then he came closer to me and didn't want to read it.
See how much people need. We see people as negative, as aggressive, and inside themselves they're little children who simply need to be told that we love them, nothing else. It's all a big mistake. That everything is just a big mistake.
With talking, it was very difficult because it's like he was afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Letters give space to persons to take in that and to digest it. So they feel more comfortable with that. Many
Now
persons.
I know every time I want something.
That was not the purpose of the exercise.
Communicate.
To communicate.
No,
Yeah.
not want something.
A Freudian slip. Anything else you would like to ask or share? Yeah. Alexandra?
Could you talk a little about
Adultery.
adultery?
Well, we'll talk about that in the meditation seminar. There's a cassette out on the shelves, which talks about sex, love, and erotas on the spiritual path, which speaks specifically about this and the complications which are created, the inner feelings of guilt, the confusion which is created, the feelings of hurt in the other person, and the difficulty in managing more than one sexual relationship. When you have the opening of your aura, of your energy field, to more than one person, there's a lot of emotional drain in that. And the cassette is only about that subject. You can. Anything else you would like to ask or speak about? Huh? Yeah.
Well, it's basically the same question, probably the same answer. Like polygamous relationships.
Well,
They seem to be quite common in like Greece and Balkan countries and some many parts of the world. It seems to be alright for the husband to have few mistresses, and they seem that men have more need for that kind of relationships.
Yeah, this does seem to be a programming like that.
I just was asking about polygamous relationships. And just wondering
No, I think that's a carryover from the Eastern and the Islamic thought form, in which one man can have many women, but that can happen in a state only when the women don't have a personality. You understand? Even their faces are covered. I mean, if you have 3 wives or 4 wives and you have equality with all of them, you'll be totally exhausted by the end. I mean, it can only exist, and it's probably just that filtering out of that concept as Greece and these countries go forth in the evolutionary process, and the woman obtains a personality and a sense of individuality. It's not so easily practical, but there's I would consider it a carryover more than anything else. And for the man, it's the need for affirmation of his manliness. There are these these social programmings. Because I know men who have 12 women, who have 12 wives, and 13 wives, and 50 children, but they don't have any problem because they are the king. I mean, the women and the children have nothing to say. When I used to go to Saudi Arabia to do some classes, I met these persons. I didn't have any problems. 1 week with the one wife, another week with another. We did a vacation with one wife, another vacation with the other. You need to have a lot of money also. That's one way of looking at it. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
About the children, don't you believe that the children after a certain age they need more to stay with their mothers? They need their mother's association more than their father's association. So is that true? Is it so? I mean, can a child is happy with living?
Of course, during the age in which it's being weaned, as long as it's still taking milk from the mother's breast, of course that's obvious that the mother needs to be close to the child. The father cannot do that. Afterwards, I believe that souls don't have sex. Souls are both male and female, and I believe the man, if he wants, can develop all of those qualities that a child would need to have if he had the time and the inclination to do it. I don't think that the child would be missing something if that man had the time and the inclination to give all of those feminine qualities to the child. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Feminine qualities.
Yeah, this nurturing, the affection, the attention which the child needs, the playing with the child, all of those things which a mother would do with the child. I think if a man had the time and the inclination, there would be the child would not feel that he was losing something. Yes.
I believe that the purpose of man is to have only one sexual partner in order to have children.
I believe the purpose of man is to evolve spiritually. Now, if that serves, at this point in the evolutionary process, that seems to be, at least for Christians, the way of going about it.
I mean, it's not a matter of whether you want it or not.
What do you mean by that? I don't believe you have to get married and have to have children. I think you can evolve without doing that. Yeah. I don't believe that belief of society that the goal of man's purpose is to get married and have children. That's one of the goals, one of the ways in which man evolves, and about 90% or 98 or 99% of humanity follows that way. But I don't believe that someone cannot have spiritual evolution if he doesn't follow that way. There are others who have another way.
And you don't believe it as an obligation.
I don't see it as an obligation. If there's an inner need to create a family, then one should follow it. But one should not feel obliged to do it. One could be a monk, or one could decide to create something else rather than children. He could create music, or create books, or create theater. and so that energy be directed in another direction. It's just creative energy. It can be children, or it can be other things. What's it?
I don't know if I'm trying to remember where, or is there a group of people that believe in such a thing, or if you know what type of people believe that up to the age of 20, one should take care of his family.
Until the children are 20, you mean?
From 20 years to 40 years,
Yeah.
one should create a
Yeah.
family, and then from 40 years on, should go to the mountain and try to find his...
Well, it's actually, no, it's 4 stages. The first stage, this is in India. The first stage is learning, going to school and learning. The second stage is raising a family. And when the children come of age to be able to survive themselves, 20, 21, 22, then the energy doesn't go directly to the forest or the monastery, but gives the third section of the life to society, to serving society in some way, because that he doesn't need all that economic energy anymore to raise his children, and he can give less time to the professional life and to making money, and more time to serving society around him. And then the last stage is going off and dedicating himself to prayer and to meditation and uniting with God. The Indians have that belief. And so you do it all. You get it all in one lifetime.
You agree with that?
I agree with that, again, as a general prototype and not as a command. I see that as a way in which many people can move. But I believe that each soul has its own way of proceeding. Most souls can proceed that way. Others may have already finished some of those aspects. And from a young child, age of 6, go into a monastery, or age of 12, go into a monastery, and not need to pass through those other sections. Those are exceptions, of course. I know a man who's 90 years old, who from the age of 17 went into the monastery. He hasn't passed through the stage of raising the family or serving society. He went directly to the 4th stage. Anything else before we complete today? Okay.
Yeah. To ask you something out subject. What about next year? Will it be the second year for us?
No, I won't be offering the second year because we actually haven't completed the first year. We've done only 16. We will have done only 16 sessions, and the first year is actually 30 sessions. So we're missing 14 sessions. So we'll repeat the first year, starting with physical harmony, then the complete emotional harmony, and then the complete effective communication.
How many sections do you have?
30 sessions. We'll do it from the beginning. From the beginning. Yeah. I would suggest that you have nothing to lose to repeat it, because this is always something which, when you hear it again, it affects you differently. And then the year after, we will be doing the meditation, philosophy, and immortality.
So when does it start?
I have some papers here, and you may want to share them with others for next year.
It's going to be in the afternoon.
It's going to be at 5 in the afternoon.
I wanted to continue in the Greek, so I can't.
You can, of course you can.
Because they're
But you're missing some things.
I
Yeah.
missed.
You're missing a lot of classes. You can do both together if you want. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Shall we break up into our groups then? To do the concentration? Okay.
When are we meeting again?
The 11th of June, last meeting. Okay, let's sit in a straight position to do our focus. Okay, sit in a straight position. Let your eyes be closed. And begin to focus on your breathing. Inhale slowly and deeply. Hold your breath. And as you exhale, just let go. Allow the body and the mind to relax. Now take a deep inhalation. Hold the breath. And as you exhale, imagine the number 3 in your forehead 3 times. Inhale deeply again. Focus on the forehead. And as you exhale, imagine the number 2 3 times. Inhale deeply again. Focus on your forehead. And as you exhale, imagine the number 1 3 times. Now feel your body. Allow the spine to be even more straight. Allow the muscles of the legs to relax. The muscles of the abdomen relax. The shoulders relax. The arms and the hands. The muscles of the face, allow them to relax. The cheeks. The eyes relax. And the forehead. Allow the muscles, the skin of the forehead to relax. Now, I will count from 10 to 1. With each number, we'll feel the mind sinking more deeply within, letting go of the outside world. 10, sinking within. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now bring to your mind a person with whom you would like to improve your relationship and your communication. Imagine yourself approaching that person, feeling a sense of peace within you. Feeling relaxed and comfortable. And feeling love for that person. Imagine yourself communicating openly and honestly in a peaceful way with that person. And imagine that person communicating with you openly and honestly in a relaxed way. Imagine that there is harmony and love between you. Imagine that you are feeling love and harmony with all persons in your life, regardless as to what they may feel, that you feel love and harmony with them. Now, I will count from 1 to 5. And with each number, we will begin rising upward to the conscious level. And at 5, we can gradually open our eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can gradually open your eyes.